So, a quick note about DNA. Uh, I watch a lot of crime shows and stuff, and I know that people, the common, the common accepted opinion about DNA is in criminal investigations that you give your DNA if you're innocent and you refuse to give it if you're guilty, and that is absolutely 1,000 millionth percent false. There are many reasons why an individual should not pony up their DNA. One of them is security of that DNA. They get that swab from you and they enter the results of that into a database called CODIS, CODIS, that is owned, operated, and managed by the FBI. So there is no promise, no guarantee, and no privacy. They claim they are going to do their best to keep it private, but there's no guarantee. And that, because CODIS is national, federal, your DNA gets funneled through, passed around, and sent to all law enforcement agencies that have access to CODIS information around the entire United States. That means that those results, which are incredibly private, by the way, your DNA is incredibly private. It is not, it's not something that should be made public. And if you are encountering law enforcement and that law enforcement is saying things to you like, well, just come on, let me get a swab. Just, if you've got nothing to hide, then what's the problem? The problem is that they do not preserve your privacy and your rights under the law when it comes to DNA collection. A lot of times, these DNA samples get incorrectly stored, so they're degraded. They get cross-contaminated because they're not being handled correctly, because just anybody in the law enforcement office there in that police hub can grab a swab and snap it off. There are many, many people that do that. And I know that DNA is a very easy thing to violate your rights to privacy, because DNA doesn't just tell you that it's not, just like your fingerprint. It's unique. Great. So is the surface of your tongue. So is your earlobe, your DNA, so on and so forth. But what your DNA also does is it tells you your ancestry and it can track your family. So if somebody got a hold of this and they wanted to find out if there were any rich and famous people in that database that they might be related to, or they could, find out dirt about and extort because, I just found out through the database that my neighbor is related to so-and-so. A lot of bad actors can get a hold of it. And unfortunately, even though law enforcement officers I love, I adore, I support monthly donations to many law enforcement agencies and military agencies as well, but they are humans first and foremost. And if an investigator is desperate to get a conviction, they might coerce you into it. They may say, well, I got your DNA, so you assume, well, that's a slam dunk, I guess I'm guilty, and get you to confess. And they do have the lawful right to lie to you. So with the reason I'm talking about this is because in the last couple of videos that I made, I was talking about the DNA supposedly found at the E. Jean Carroll dress, the Monica Lewinsky gimmick that was being played there. And that Trump, I believe Trump refused to give his DNA. And the reason that he refused, well, because he was, was he president at the time or just came out of being president at the time? So presidents, their privacy, their DNA, fingerprints, etc., are handled much differently than any other individual. Number one. Number two, because he and his legal team more than likely know that it can be used by bad actors to propagate crime. It can be used for any number of things by any number of bad actors. And as investigations go and we discover so many investigations into the Biden administration, for example, and the leaks and the fraud and the betrayal of the FBI and the CIA and the DOJ under his administration in particular, you can't. There's a zero vote of confidence there. So, if anybody wants to argue that there was or wasn't DNA on that dress, where it came from, and that Trump is guilty, that's why. No, that's not it at all. There's a lot of backstory to it, a lot more things that it's more complicated than people understand. And DNA, again, can be gotten from any place. You can get DNA from your skin, rub up against somebody, get their skin cells on your clothes. If they sneeze and you're in close proximity, if they wipe their mouth and you take that tissue and, they drop the tissue and you go to pick it up and it gets stuck on your leg and you're rubbing it there. Of course, bodily fluids are a common way of getting DNA, saliva, semen, urine, etc. DNA can be gotten from many, many, many different places. And just because your DNA is all over your clothing, if you have sex with your husband, wives out there, odds are the first pair of panties you pick up, they're going to have his DNA on them, right? That DNA is going to be all over the place. So that's not an admission of guilt to say, no, I'm not giving you my DNA. If you have enough for a warrant, you get a warrant for my DNA, I'll be happy to comply. But know this, don't just jump up and offer your DNA simply because you believe, well, I'm innocent and I'm going to give him my DNA and I'm going to let him search my car and I'm going to let him do this and that because I'm innocent. I got nothing to hide. It's not about what you have or have not to hide. It is about your rights to privacy. And you don't understand that once it hits that CODIS database, millions and millions of people that you don't know anything about their character, their job, their security level, why they would have it, have access. And those that work in the police department that collected that and transported it, every hand that touched that has access to it. And they can find out deeply personal things about you, about your health history, but most importantly, they can locate your family members. If they have the right base, the right database, if they have some training or they have access to with security or whatnot, they can track down your relatives. Now, if you want to hire somebody to track down your relatives and use DNA to do it, by all means, go ahead. But if somebody is accusing you of something and they want your DNA, I want you to think about the many, many reasons why it's a bad idea to just offer that up. Because you are selling out not just yourself, but your spouse, your children. If they took DNA from a shirt that you were wearing, but you hugged your husband before you went to work that day and his DNA is on there. I mean, it's not a slam dunk. The majority of court cases, criminal trials, are tried and decided on circumstantial evidence. And you can dispute that with me all you want. I do work for the courts. That doesn't mean I know everything, but I do know a few things. And that is one of them, that it's not a slam dunk, and that there are too many variables with the collection and storage of your DNA record. And imagine if in World War II, the Nazi Party had access to the DNA of people. And they used that DNA and they traced it. And they found out that you had Jewish relatives in your past. They did anyway. They did extensive searches with the means they had available at the time. But that's how dangerous and thin that rope is that we are traversing with just voluntarily giving up our DNA and adding it to things like Ancestry.com. Did you know there are many sites that'll say, oh, yeah, just, if you've got an Ancestry.com account and you've got the 23andMe DNA, yeah, just give us access, or yeah, just give us the link and we can review everything from there. If you're looking up genealogy and you're looking for help with genealogy, they'll do that. Well, just give it to us. Just give us the link. And then some random person somewhere has access to your DNA and everybody in their genealogy database as well. And then you've broken a bond of privacy and an element of expected security with your family members as well. So it's always fun to play with the Ancestry.com and the 23andMe DNA, and looking up where you had an ancestor from Europe. Well, that's great, but I think everybody had an ancestor from Europe because here in America we all came from Europe, or the Native Americans, which I am 50%. But it's the assumption that somebody is guilty based on DNA. Now, the DNA on Lewinsky's dress, I don't know if they ever tested that, because that was, DNA back in the 90s wasn't what it is today. I don't know if they ever tested it and confirmed. I do know that that I believe now they can determine how that DNA was obtained. Was it obtained through skin cells, saliva, whatever? And they can make a determination with that. But there are many, many ways that you can get a person's DNA on you, or on your clothing, or on your pocketbook, or on your glass, or whatever. And that can be used against that person if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, even if they're innocent. So never assume that you're doing the right thing for yourself or your loved ones, your family, by volunteering your DNA. There are many reasons why you should not. Unless there's a warrant, you need to give your DNA if there's a warrant. And of course, if you're innocent, you got nothing to worry about. But don't offer it up, and don't believe cops when they tell you that you have to. They have to have a warrant for that, just like they have to have a warrant to go in your house or check your phone or anything else. Be careful what you're offering up, especially when it comes to DNA, because many people get accused of murder and rape and other horrendous crimes because their DNA showed up at the wrong place at the wrong time. And there are cases, very few, very rare, but there are cases where DNA was planted at the scene by another person. Hell, you can even, I believe that there's some fifth grade school science project way that you can transfer fingerprints to a crime scene if you wanted. So don't believe everything you hear. Don't assume that when you hear DNA that it's automatic guilt, that it's going to get you, because what's going to get you is violation of privacy and a violation of your rights. And I think that's important to understand. And until next time, do good and be good.